All right, there we go. Are we doing all right? I got this balanced in a pretty precarious way right now. Hopefully that'll work. There. And there. That work? That works. All righty. Oh, where am I? I'm late on board here tonight because I fell down an internet rabbit hole and I didn't realize I had done that. So I was like, it's like 8:30, and I'm like, I've got a little bit of time before I need to get on at 9:30, and then I look up and it's like, it's 10:15. Okay, well, I should have been better prepared than this. So I'm jumping on board here a little late tonight. Hopefully all sound comes on and video. I slapped everything together real quick. Wow, I feel like I spent a lot of time last night doing some additional stuff for the gaming stuff and then planning some more video content stuff. I'm trying to remember all of what I was doing the last 24 hours because I've done stuff, but I feel like I haven't gone anywhere. And so it feels a little bit like I'm still in the same spot I was yesterday. Directly under the overhead light, so it's a little glaring right now. It's washing me out a little bit, making me a little, there we go. I'll just sit here like this all night. Yeah, that'll work. That'll work just fine. Yeah, so anyway, this is the start of a new week. I'm going to continue working on the stuff from the last couple weeks. So the fiction, the videos, and the board games will continue to be worked through to the end of the month, possibly into the end of next month as we also go through that. New stuff next month. It's sort of like the way I'm looking at it is like in the 2-month chunks of time where I do one of each of the 8 categories of content, I feel like if I give myself 2 months of time to do all that, then that kind of works for me. Let's see if I can get my mic lined up right. See if you can catch my audio right, hopefully. So this is a week for starting up a product, and this one, I kind of had an idea for this before, a while back. This was partly inspired by the fact that when I went on my trip to Oahu, like packing and getting ready to go. Okay, cool. Packing and getting ready to go. I got out a backpack and it wasn't quite enough to pack the things I needed. And like the laptop at the time was longer than was ideal to make it fit that. And it's like, okay, so that's not right. And then I got another bag and that one's too big. So stuff rattled around in there. And I got to think like, you know what? Maybe I should just design a bag that does exactly what I need a bag to do for me right now. And so I started, figuring out what it is, the shapes and positionings, and like how I want to be able to open it without taking it completely off. So like take one shoulder out and slide it and open it from a side rather than having to reach around to the top of it and try to get to the top of the opening and whatever and get a cramp in your arm or your waist as you contort yourself into positions that your body's not used to. I'm like, there's got to be an easier way to do this. And so I started to, puzzle out some possibilities of what I could do for a bag that fits my needs. And for the most part, my needs are going to be like my laptop, maybe an e-reader, maybe a webcam pocket, the portable camera, the tripod, and my portable audio recorder, maybe the microphone now. I think I could do a lav mic too. I don't know that this is really meant to be a portable mic. I would worry about risking damaging it by taking it anywhere, but possibly with a mic pocket if I wanted to do something like that. Maybe I'd get like a portable Rhodes mic or something like that. And then on top of that, being able to have a separate compartment that can keep food some simple foods I can bring with me cool for as long as I need them cool. Maybe put in a cool pack and not have it affect the other stuff, like the backup batteries or the laptop or external hard drives, all of that stuff. I don't want like liquids, and I don't want temperature changes accessing the components on them. So like I'm thinking like, could I do something like that? And so like admittedly, some of this stuff I could build into a like a hard pack case that I could put on wheels. So starting to think like different types of luggage I would need for different things. So when I'm thinking about traveling to another location, especially when I'm contemplating going to another country, I'm going to want to be able to bring a few days clothing, some simple everyday things I need to carry with me. So basically everything I took with me to Hawaii for a week, if I can build a set of luggage that would meet my needs for all of those, that would be ideal. And do that over the next couple of years so that I can make them and have them with me when I travel, but also potentially sell the plans for, because that's the thing I'm not sure on. Like with the puzzle that I made last time we did a product and service week, that one was something like I can produce over and over again and sell copies of. Could I do something similar for like luggage? Like, do I want to be making a whole set of luggage regularly? Not really. So like I might be able to build a modular luggage system that I could put together on a sewing machine, but that's sort of like a you do it once kind of thing. I might be able to sell the patterns for people to make their own though. Um, but if I do like the luggage that I would carry like the carry-on case, because that's the other thing I did when I traveled is I did it in such a way that I didn't have to check any baggage. And that made it a lot easier for me to keep track of everything that was mine. Nothing got lost. I had everything I need that all fit into one carry-on that I went to Hawaii with. If I could build the ideal carry-on bag like that and an individual laptop, like when I went on the plane, they said you can have one carry-on and a laptop bag. And so I feel like if I could do a laptop backpack, one carry-on bag, and then design a checkable bag for anything else I could ever possibly need to take on a plane or travel with, then I could probably design a setup that I could take anywhere and do anything with. And then beyond that, I can look at the possibility of like when I'm traveling in my car across country or into Canada or Mexico or whatever, uh, could I build a little like uh, in-car house essentially, like where I keep stuff for bedding when I'm going to sleep in my car, a small kitchenette. Could I convert the inside of my small car into a sort of like a pack out camp um, equipment? Whoa! Almost lost you. Nope. Okay. Now you're freaking out. Nope. Cortana, go away. Where were we? Yeah. So converting the inside of something that could use like almost like doing cabinets, but it's packable in most any car. So it would be sort of like doing a built-in cabinet, but it would be built in. It would be something I could pull out of any trunk or put into a teardrop that I built, like a teardrop trailer, or the trunk of my Subaru, or you could pack it in on the side of a van and build a bed platform on the other side. So it's just basically like a versatile, mobile, like living space uh, accessories kind of thing. So it would hopefully give me everything I would need to build a moderate amount of managing, like a plate, cup, fork, spoon, knife, concept idea, something that I can build into ideally, it would be half of the trunk of my car. And so I'm just playing around with these ideas of things that I could make that would make travel and ideas, or travel and plans, uh, easier and more achievable for me. It's sort of like a micro RV sort of situation. Could I build like a micro RV in a swappable format that I could take in and out of pretty much any vehicle? So if this car dies after I put it through its paces for another year or two, can I just make something that doesn't matter what car I put it in? I can pull it out. It's maybe got wheels, doesn't weigh a whole lot, but it gives me a place for minor pantry storage and some dishware and stuff, a small, maybe a setup to unfold into a dry sink that I can use for cleaning or whatever, and then, you know, pack in a drawer for a couple clothing items, a change of clothes, um, maybe cleaning supplies, whatever I need it to do. And so, like, could I do something like that? And like, that's a rather big project to be working on right now. Um, the carry-on luggage, maybe I could do something with that right now. I'll put that one sort of on the, you know, the maybe list this week. Um, Maybe just do a rough design. But the backpack, the one that lets me take my stuff with me when I go down to the makerspace, rather than grabbing one or two little bags that I've got around here or putting them in a grocery bag and I take it with me. Um, that's the other thing I kind of want it to be able to do, is protect, like, the laptop if it's raining out. Like, it's rained solid here today all day. And so, like, the idea of maybe setting up something that so a little weatherproof, has a pocket for my phone, maybe a external charging battery to recharge my my phone or any of the stuff I take with me, and chargers for my phone, chargers for my laptop, um, and spare batteries for my camera, tripod stand, camera, SD card holder port, and some notebook for writing on paper when I need to do that. Like, what else do I need it to have? Like, I might want some space for a book or something, and a place to put a container of food, possibly a thermos of, like, a food thermos and a drink thermos maybe on it, and have it. I mean, that makes more sense, I think, than stitching in a temperature safe lining and then, you know, zipping the food in with the rest of the equipment. I think if you can make a sealable thermos that you can put into that, I think that makes a little bit more sense. The possibility of also having a feature that lets you run a power cord into the bag from outside the bag. So pull a cord out and plug it into a wall and use it to charge all your equipment. So, like, a little power strip with maybe 4 or 5 sockets on it, so that you can charge your phone, your laptop, and 1 or 2 other devices at the same time. So, I mean, maybe not, I can't manufacture those power strips, but I can make it so that you can get a simple off-the-shelf one and insert it into the bag and have it secured in a place that lets you do that. So I want a bag that would let me carry all of those things that I want to be able to use for some mobile content creation and taking my stuff with me when I go work on a project. So I want to be able to do that. So the cables, the chargers, the batteries, the devices themselves, a way to run a line to charge them externally while they're still in the bag. I want it to be waterproof. I want to be able to access the pockets without having to take it off and put it down on the floor in front of me. So that's usually, God, my feet are falling asleep. There's a there are a few different types of bags that that have the side open feature that you can close up, and I've seen a couple different ways that some people have done that, and so I want to look into that. But so that's the big one. That's the one that if I can make a bag that does that and has a little bit of protection from the environment and bumping into things, and maybe a little security so that it doesn't. I don't know how I would manage the security aspect so people can't snag it from me, but as long as it's strapped to my back. Yeah, there is some potential heat in the bag arrangement, but that shouldn't be too big an issue if it's not running at the same time. Like, I don't know, like, I'm pretty sure that if I have my laptop charging and it's closed, it doesn't get any warmer. Well, it does. Actually, the battery might get a little warm, yeah, but I don't know that I've ever felt one that felt dangerously hot after a while. But I guess I'll just check it out and give it a go and see if it's a situation that comes up. Now, if my laptop were running, yeah, this thing spits out enough heat that I feel like I sometimes have second-degree burns on my legs. It's not usually that bad, but it's a little bit of an exaggeration. But I'm thinking about that bag, and like if I can put together a simple design and a mock-up in the first part of the week, I might be able to use the sewing machine at the makerspace and see if I'll have to learn how to use the sewing machine this week on top of everything, but I think I could probably figure out some of that and figure out how to put together at least the design I'm hoping for on this bag. I could hand sew it if I really had to. I don't want to go that far, but and then while thinking about that, I got thinking about, like, is there a way I could do another similar bag, but instead of doing the stuff for video creation? Because like for this channel, what I do a lot of is like I read, so I can download digital books and read them on a Kindle or this. I can watch movies on this. Actually, I might not be able to watch them on this unless I download them onto it first. Yeah, this one doesn't have the DVD drive. The other one had that. But I can watch videos on like Netflix or something on here. Board games, maybe. If there's like a digital version of them, I could use this, or like I can pack a simple board game or a card game into my pack with it. Product or service, I don't know. Yeah, I can use products or services. I can use digital services and whatnot. Food, like I said, containers for food maybe on the bag. Art or music, so some art supplies maybe could go into the bag too. And music player, audio systems, MP3 player, and then so that just leaves like video games would be the next category, and I can do stuff there. Health and fitness, I could maybe put some exercise equipment to take with me when I'm traveling somewhere. So like literally I could do every category of content that I could do on this channel. I have one small backpack that I can wear that holds everything I need to do a video for this channel, and have it so that I don't even have to take it all the way off to access everything. It's easy to access from just sliding over onto the side here, opening and accessing it. Like if I can build a bag that does that, that's sort of my ideal equipment bag for doing this. But I also have my other channel where I do some tinkering with tools and equipment. And I got to thinking, like, what if I made a secondary bag that's sort of like a messenger bag, or maybe another backpack or something, that is a bag that carries screwdrivers, hammers, box cutters, or knives. And, it's like, this isn't something I'm going to check on a plane. I can't take something like that on a plane. But being able to have a a ready-to-go bag. It's sort of like an everyday carry, but it's a workshop in a bag. It's a small workshop in a small bag, but gives me the ability to shape wood, do some simple metal shaping, paper, gluing, soldering, some simple electronics, maybe even I think it would be a little, if I could do soldering, I could probably get away with doing some like stained glass work. I think it would be hard to do much other type of glass work, but maybe. I know I could do a really small, like glass bead making maybe, but that's a whole different, like, that may be just like, let's figure out the most versatile pack for being able to do crafts and simpler tinkering projects. Because I did have a plan at one point, and I was bouncing around in my head a way to make a portable station where I could cut through, like, I could put a small trim saw. It's basically, it would be a fold out workbench that you could carry around like a large briefcase or a small suitcase, and you fold it out and it turns into a working surface that you could do a trim saw, like a table saw on, or a jigsaw, scroll saw, drill press, lathe, like some very simple modifications to a motor can do all of those things. And if you get a decently powered small motor, you can do a lot of interesting things with it. And so I thought about doing one of those. But again, I think that is more like for the bag for this channel would be the backpack that I can do most of this stuff with a carry-on bag that can do the rest of that stuff with. Now, I feel like the other one is essentially saying like back bag, carry bag, and then maybe like a large case. And so like making it a 3-tier system. I'm sorry if this is moving so much. Making this like a 3-tiered system of like ultra mobile capabilities bag, a more extensive capabilities still mobile bag, and then sort of a mobile work space case that could fit into half of a trunk. Like, to me, that would be sort of like the ideal. And so I'm like, I can at least start working on one, if not 2 backpacks. Start mocking up in, say, cardboard or something, the plans for the carry-on sized bags. And then past that, drawing up plans and designs for the larger cases. So I think that's sort of what I want to do this week. And if we consider both channels having a 3-tier bag system or 3-tier setup, then that's 6 potential designs done this week by the end of the week. So that's highly optimistic, but that's sort of the idea I think I want to go with this week. So what I'm going to try to do is do some simple sketches, ideas tonight, and come up with sort of the best way I can think to design up both backpacks, and maybe even get started on where I want to go with the carry-on sized bags or the carry case. And then sometime during the rest of this week, I should probably get down to the makerspace and see if I can get familiar with the sewing machine enough to get some cheap fabric from Joann's Fabrics, or maybe Walmart or Michael's or Hobby Lobby or something like that, and just grab some like on sale fabric. I mean, it can be Hello Kitty fabric for all I care. Like, if it's the cheapest stuff they've got on there right now for me to build a test run mock-up, I think that's probably the way to go to start with. So that'd give me something to get a sense of fit, positioning, and all that. It's something that, like, if it doesn't work out the way I want it to, it's not like I've invested $40 in material that I can't use anymore. And then I should be able to at least get a testable one of these backpacks by the end of the week that I could use more regularly. So like something I could say, like, it will be my version of it, and I will potentially make new ones for sale at some point, or at least make the patterns available. And I want it to be low profile, small, simple, light, and well secured to my back. Because one of the other things I've had trouble with backpacks in the past is they either hang so much on your back that they're not comfortable that way, or like the other thing I have trouble with is, like, I've got very obvious collarbones, and straps hurt. Straps just dig, and then it's a stabbing pain for the rest of the day right in those locations. So I want to see if I can distribute the weight properly, not have it swinging around and bumping around a lot, but not also weighing or strapping in so tight that it constricts on areas of my body that hurt. And so, building that design to fit what I need it to do, I may have to take a look at some hiking backpacks to see how they distribute their loads and secure them a little bit. And if I can figure that out, I may be able to include some of those features in the shoulder strap design so that it's comfortable to wear with a load in it, but it shouldn't weigh, like, it's supposed to be a small enough bag that it shouldn't weigh like a 30 to 40 pound pack. But having the strapping that a 30 or 40 pound pack would have would allow me to secure in a way that's not uncomfortable to wear. Does that make any sense? I hope so. So I think the other thing I have to keep in mind is if I do the exterior of the bag in a way that makes it weatherproof, I also want to keep in mind that if I'm strapping it to my back, I want it to be able to breathe a little bit so that I don't feel like I've just put a garbage bag over me like a poncho and let sweat accumulate on the back of it. I don't want to do that either. So those are some design elements I have to take into consideration. So this is a venture into a territory I'm not used to doing. Like, I don't usually design or build wearables of any kind. And I certainly don't do a lot of fiber arts, so not a lot of sewing. I did a little sewing when I was younger. I stitched together some stuffed animals and stuff like that for fun. But I never got the hang of a sewing machine. That was always something I sort of regret, because these days, if I could, I'd make some of my own clothes, because I can find clothing that fits me vertically and it's very loose. I can find clothes that fit me horizontally and they leave these gaps, like a band around my waist, because I am 6'2" and I weigh about 170. Well, right now I'm probably a little bit more than that, but I weigh about 170 to 180 depending on where I am and things. And a lot of that's skinny build, and I'm proportioned in such a way that when I get shirts, like the sleeves end like here. If I put my arm out, I can sometimes get the sleeve that just pulls back to here. And I get something similar on my legs, where if I'm standing up, I get pant legs that they're on the ground and the back of the cuff gets worn away. But if I sit down, it rides halfway up my calf, because they're just not designed to accommodate a long, thin body like that. And I like to wear vests over these shirts, but I buy most of my clothing either secondhand or get them as gifts. If I get them as gifts, they're usually somebody found something in a large tall, which is rare. usually you get extra large, tall, but they don't do a lot of tall clothing in large sizes or extra long. And so it's just like finding things that do that fit right. Like I feel like if I could modify, tailor, or otherwise make my own clothing, it wouldn't be an issue of finding a nice vest that looks good, except for if you move a little too much, it rides up about 4 inches above your belt. I don't want it doing that. Like I am not wearing a crop top here, guys. This is it's a minor frustration of mine, which is an okay frustration to have. I'll admit, when I was younger and I was much heavier, we used to have to go to the big and tall men's shop because nobody made clothes tall enough for me. At age 13, I was 6 foot tall. I pity my mother. I was 6 foot tall at age 13, and my sister, who I was raised with, she's after the age of 30, she is still 4 foot 10 and a half. So she's short enough she could probably wear young girls' clothing, except for she's built like an adult woman. A very substantially proportioned adult woman. And so like she can't wear young women's clothing, and they don't make a lot of women's clothing sized for somebody who's 4'10". It's just not practical. Like not enough people are in that size range for them to make clothes that fit her right. And so my mother had a struggle with that kind of stuff. And I always felt like if I had gotten my stuff together in time, if I'd really got my act together and learned some of the skills to make clothing, it wouldn't have been such an issue. I could make clothes I wanted that looked good for me, that fit my body and choice of styles. And so this might be practice run for me learning to sew a little bit better so I could do this kind of stuff for myself in the future. But admittedly, I'm very utilitarian in my design of products and ideas for things. And so this is really meant more right now for me to build my own cases, backpacks, suitcases kind of thing, for me to be able to carry around all the stuff I need to do all the weird projects that I come up with. And like if I'm out traveling and I'm working on a project and I want to say, oh, I have this idea for doing this with this thing, I can pull over and just do it because I have everything I need with me to do it. That would be amazing. I don't have that in my life right now. Right now, I have a lot of crap piled up in my car that I can use to make things with, but I can't do anything with it when I'm not here. So I think that's really where I'm going to work on. I'm going to do a little design planning tonight. Basically, just sort of like chart out what I want to bring with me, what I need when I'm traveling to do stuff with. And that's sort of like going over what I pack when I go to different maker spaces when I'm traveling. What do I need with me when I do that? And seeing if I can upgrade that kit a little bit so that I can take a few more things with me. Because like when I went across country, I had a lot of stuff that stayed in my car when I traveled. So like in my car, I had a cigarette, the cigarette thing, and I got a charger that turned that into like a house outlet, so that I didn't have to get a separate charger for other outlets or convert a car lighter to my laptop. Like I could order online a charger from my laptop that plugs into a car outlet, and then have one that goes from my laptop to the house outlet. That's two chargers. I now have a thing that I can plug into the car outlet that turns it into a house outlet, so that I don't have to have two chargers. It's just this little thing that plugs right into the charger. It's not super little, but because apparently those do get hot and they do need a fan to keep them cool. But I use that. It also has a port on it for a couple of USBs, so that I could, while I'm charging my laptop, also plug in a charger for my audio recorder and plug in a charger for my phone, all in the same outlet. And then I got a couple USB chargers to cigarette lighter sockets for 2 more USB devices while I was traveling. So having those with me when I carry them in the bag instead of leaving those in the car, I'd looked at the possibility of some simple food warmers, or even portable coolers that I could take traveling with me that would keep food cool. So if I went and got an entire packet of ham slices that I could have for lunch, I didn't have to eat it all right then because I had nowhere else to store it. And 8 hours later, you're going to get food poisoning eating it that way. So I looked into getting a like small cookers. Like there are like coffee pots that you can get that you can plug into the cigarette lighter on a car. And if you can do that, you can do a lot of those like instant cup food items, or coffees, teas, soups, um, uh, freeze-dried foods, oatmeals. You can do a lot of food that way. And if you know what you're doing, you can actually soft boil some eggs. And if you go to like a farmer's market and you get some farm fresh eggs that don't need to be refrigerated, you can have food ready all day long. You get some cheese that doesn't need to be refrigerated either, like a hard cheese, and you're good to go. Now, I mean, ideally you don't leave them inside the car, because then like interiors of cars on summers, like your eggs are going to cook and your cheese is going to spoil. And then once that's happened, like you've got 4 to 5 hours before you risk food poisoning. But I looked into a few of those things, and if I could find some simple options for doing that kind of stuff, I know I could make a small alcohol stove to cook things over, and I could make a stand to put a small pot on. And if I do make food that I can travel with, I can do dried vegetables, maybe some dried grains, and then some like jerky or pemmican that I could make while I'm traveling. So maybe having a compartment where I can put dried foods like camping foods that I could do, so that I could have something to eat while I'm traveling that's not a worry about spoilage while I'm traveling. And I have a day to 2 days worth of food on me so that I can go anywhere. So having a compartment on one of the bags for that kind of stuff. Compartments for my cameras and my backup batteries, and I currently have like a point and shoot camera that I do some of my locational shoots at. I have this webcam too now, thanks to you. But I also have the possibility of like a knockoff. I have a knockoff GoPro that I found on Amazon for like $25. That gets, I think it gets it might be 720, might be 1080 resolution. It's a knockoff. It's probably not super great, but it comes with a case that's waterproof and some harnesses and attachments that I can use it to clip to all sorts of things. So I can clip it to the handlebars of a bicycle or a hang glider if I wanted to go do something stupid like that. I don't know why I would do that, but it's a possibility. So the idea of being able to pack that in there with the other things, a backup battery to recharge the GoPro knockoff, and a backup battery for my phone. And that's the thing, is like, it's like at $25, if this stupid little camera, and I haven't tried it out yet really to get a sense for it, but if this thing can at least do the same quality images, it's going to be fisheye. It's going to be that wide angle lens that they all have. It's a fixed wide angle lens, but if it does at least as good as my stationary camera here, but has a case that can be dropped into ponds and lakes to get underwater footage, or go through a rainstorm, or fall into a snowbank, or protect it from a sandstorm when I'm out in the desert, all of that, I'm good with that. Like $25, if I get 8 months use out of it, I can get another one if I do another big project where I'm going to have to travel across terrains that I don't want to risk my good camera getting damaged when I have it out. And so for $25, that's a decent price. My good camera would cost me $300, so it's going to be, I'd have to go through, what, 6 of the things? No, 25 times 4 times 3. I mean, I'm going to have to go through 12 of them before it would justify getting a better quality one. I think I looked at some of the prices of the GoPros. Just some of the GoPros are hugely expensive, and some of them are like $100 to $200. So it depends on what range you go for. But the thing about the one I got was, like, for a knockoff, not only is it decent for a knockoff, it seems like, but the thing that got my attention is that many of the GoPros don't have a screen on the back. So it's anybody's guess if you recorded anything on it or not until you pull the card out and plug it into a laptop. But mine has a screen on the back and a menu I can go into and see all the footage that I shot. So on site, without having to pull out a laptop and plug everything in and turn it on, it'll tell me what I've got, whether I got the shot or not. And I'm like, that makes more sense to me, and it's $25 for that. I'm like, I'm fine with that. Your GoPro 7 was close to $400. Yeah. Okay, yeah. And one of the things I did notice with like the other thing when looking at the price of my kit was my knockoff camera. Yeah, it's a knockoff GoPro, and that camera is easily worth that price to me. The whole camera came with a waterproof case, 6 different stands, like for anchoring it to you can anchor it to a windshield upside down for a dash cam. You can anchor it to a headband on or anchor it to a helmet on a motorcycle riding. You can anchor it to the handlebars of a bicycle for mountain biking. You could anchor it to a chest strap if you wanted to go running. You could anchor it to at least 4 different arrangements, and all the pieces were modular, and it had everything you needed to do all that. It had the waterproof case that you could put it into, but it also had a regular stand that you could mount it on, and a piece that you could hook up to a tripod. And I'm like, the kit of accessories for this is easily worth $35. Came with the camera at $25 price. I'm like, sold. Absolutely sold. Because I mean, even if you look at it a certain way, like, it may be possible, and it's been a while since I looked at the box. I got it a while back, and I just haven't had the time to take it out for a test run yet. When you look at it, it looks like the feature that lets me attach it to a tripod goes the other way too. So I could take my regular cameras that attach to a tripod and attach them to all the accessories that fit onto steering wheels, windshields, bicycle handles, chest straps, and I can take those for a run or a ride on a bike or a hang glide. And I'm like, well, okay, yeah. So now like that accessory kit alone has increased the capabilities of all of my equipment. I was like, yeah, $25, totally worth the price. And with access to 3D printers, I can take measurements on some of those pieces and add new accessories to that kit for pennies that'll do things that take the capabilities even further. And so if I'm going to be taking around a GoPro like that and my regular camera and a couple tripods and like a GorillaPod and a standard tripod, I may build or tinker around with making a boom arm that lets me adjust like panning motions and angles and stuff like that to add some capabilities to my filming and still photography. And so like if I do that, I kind of want to build it around a couple things I can add on to one of the tripods. I have like a very flimsy tripod that wouldn't stand up to that workload, but I have a slightly stronger, still small and lightweight portable tripod that could probably handle a lightweight adaptation to it that would let me do some of that. So I may look into seeing if I can build a boom arm that would let me do that. And I'm looking at potentially building a camera stabilizer for motion shots and shots when I'm out and about. And if I can build a stabilizer like that, I want to be able to carry that with me. So the idea of having a lot of these things that I can take with me and that are portable, I kind of want to be able to have it all in one bag that I can just, if I go to the airport again next time, I'll be able to say like, here's my camera bag with all my equipment for shooting. Here's my laptop bag that I can, take in with me. And then here's my carry-on bag. It's like all of that put together, I can take it with me and then have one checked bag. That would make travel amazingly easy for me. And if it works, my motto when coming up with ideas for products that may be a saleable product is I can't be the only one that this would work for. If this is a need I have and it satisfies my need, then there is at least one other person somewhere in the world who has these same needs and is looking for something that does this. And so my feeling on that is like, if I can build a bag that I need and meets my needs, then it's a product that somebody else out there potentially needs or wants. And so that's where I'm kind of working on this one, is I need to sit down with a sketch pad, and I've got a couple of them out here right now, and a pencil, and just sort of come up with some basic outlines of what I want the bags to do and how I want to be able to use them. So like side open. So I want to be able to side open and access my laptop right away, so that I can pull it around to my side, open it up, pull out the laptop, push it back around, put my arm through the strap, open up the laptop, turn it on, and do something with it. If I can do that, I could go for a 6-mile walk, and halfway through my walk, stop, pull out my laptop, and do some research or connect with a local Wi-Fi signal or something like that. And well, that's one of the things, is like there are a lot of in-camera stabilization features in some modern cameras, but there are also these rigs that you can build, like a gyroscope stabilized. I've seen people make them out of like PVC pipe, where they're like 2 handles, a frame, a tripod stand in the middle of the frame, and a gyroscope stabilization point on the front of it, and a gimbal. And so you can just kind of move that thing around and the camera just stays steady right in the center, and you get very steady shots. And if you've got a camera that has some stabilization features in it along with one of those, like that's how you get those silky, beautiful, like you're following somebody up a mountain trail over rough terrain, walking behind them, and the camera just feels like it's floating right behind them. It's not a drone. I mean, you can do drones at human level, but it's not the ideal way to do that. But it's just like, I think with a 3D printer, instead of using like big PVC pipe tubes and fittings for that, I'd be willing to bet you good money that with a 3D printer or some of the fabrication tools in the local makerspace and some scrap metal, I could put together a very lightweight version of those things on a smaller scale that can fold flat and pack away. And if I can do that, to me, I mean, like, I'm all over, like, if I like the idea of being able to build them myself. Like, I don't want to go pay, even if it costs me the same amount of money to get all the pieces I need to do this, I'm going to do it myself. Because not only like, if I buy a $300 Steadicam rig and that rig breaks, I have to get somebody to repair it for me. But if I built the thing and it cost me $380 instead of $300, $380, but it breaks, I know exactly how it went together and I know how to make the pieces to replace it for a few dollars. Then it's way cheaper for me to maintain it myself, and I can troubleshoot while I'm out traveling. I could get it up and running in a day or two rather than having to send it out for a repair from a professional for 3 weeks or whatever. Like, I would much rather build it myself and know how to maintain it and repair it and replace parts. And so if I can figure out how to make a home built using 3D printing metal fabrication, we have a plasma cutter now at the makerspace. And we have metal brakes. We have welding equipment. I can do some soldering and brazing. We can do some tap and die work to do some threading and whatnot. I can cut down screws and bolts to the right size, do some grinding. Like I said, 3D printing. I could probably do some small scale injection molding or press forming of plastics. I could probably do some wood shaping. We've got the laser cutter. I can cut out different pieces and glue them together for wood. So I could make wood, plastic, and metal pieces in almost any shape that I could ever need. I might get to the point where I may have to do some metal casting, and that might be a little harder to do. If it's okay to do it with pewter, I might be able to get away with it. I could do tin, pewter. I could do some brazing and shaping of brass pieces. I don't know that I could cast a lot of brass. I might be able to. I might be able to pull together a furnace, and I could probably put together something where I could do some forging of some steel or iron. And so, like, I know I can build a bunch of things that would increase, like, my ability to make all of the stuff I'd need to do to put tear down and assemble photography and video studio. And it was one of those things I think I talked about in one of the nights a week or so ago, where I was talking about I have a big cardboard box that my laptop came in, and I'm like, I could turn that into a portable audio recording booth and a still photography setup. Might be able to, with some simple modifications, turn it into a video recording spot, and it all would fit into a small box that I can fold up. Now, do they have a vacuum forming, a vacuum molding, or a vacuum forming? Because vacuum forming is like you take sheets of plastic and you can suck them over a shape to get a thin plastic sheet in a particular shape. It's what they used to make Halloween masks out of. Because vacuum molding, there are ways that you can vacuum mold metals, and you can actually do plastics too. And that's where you take a mold that takes a solid piece of plastic into it, and you put a vacuum on the other side, and it sucks the plastic into the mold. Now, both of those things I could probably build a rig for. I have actually talked with the Makerspace. I don't know that we have a place to put it. I talked with them about doing a small injection molding, which is how a lot of plastic parts are made. You make a 2-part mold with a spout in it, and you have a basically you have a tube with a heating element around it that gets to the right temperature to melt plastics. And I do a lot of plastic forming. I know what the temperature for all these plastics are. And I know that I can make a plunger that would just push all of that into a mold. I can do that relatively easily. I'm not as practiced with making a mold, so like I may get it wrong the first few times, because there are parts of it where if you make the mold wrong, the plastic goes in and it can't make it to all the parts because you didn't plan it right. But I'm pretty sure that with a little practice, I could get that right. And my tendency for some of that stuff is, instead of trying to do an injection molded gear, I would do an injection molded wheel that I then could cut the teeth into afterwards. That just makes it so much easier, because you're gonna get some failure on the teeth on a gear. Yeah, and so like I don't know that I could, like, I would probably end up having to use the mill at the Makerspace to mill out some molds. But if I make some aluminum block molds in multiple pieces that I can pre-warm even to the point of the molten plastic temperature of the rest of the rig, then I would have a lot less to worry about, especially if I can do the air channels in it of the right size so that I don't get a lot of flashing around the edges. But I'm sure we could build a rig like that at the Makerspace. I just don't know that we have the space for it. And I don't know that they want me making it and leaving it there. Maybe. I'll have to find out. I'll have to talk with them about it. But I could do some very simple tabletop injection molding of some very simple pieces. And I could do some vacuum forming relatively easily. I mean, I actually was looking at, for a little while, doing a project for the Roving Jack channel to see if I could do, like, what's the cheapest way I could build a vacuum former. And so I was looking at a possibility of going out and getting, this is going to sound hilarious, but I was looking at the possibility of getting some of those, like, go to the thrift store, find some of those cookie tins, and take those cookie tins, take the top off of 2 of them, cut the band around the middle of the cookie tin, and then sandwich 2 lids around a thin band and put holes in the top of one of them and put a hole in the bottom of one of them and put a shop vac on it. And then a toaster oven from a thrift store for $5 to $15. You pull the heating elements out and you line them up parallel to each other on top, and you have your frame for your plastic, and you put it up against that. Maybe put a small PC fan in there to circulate the hot air on both sides of the plastic to just keep it hot all around. And then you have the ability to drop down your plastic and pull the vacuum on it. I'm pretty sure for under $20 I could build a vacuum former that would do sheets of plastic that I can get from shampoo bottles and milk jugs, and vacuum form all the vacuum formed pieces I would need to do from anything. And I was like, that's totally doable. That's dependent. We are kind of soft on that rule, and different spaces have different rules on that. But our Makerspace, if I go in there and I want to print out something the size of a keychain or a couple pieces that would be a stand that I could clip onto the side of the microphone. Like if I wanted to do a shoe horse shaped, like the bridge on this piece here, if I wanted to duplicate that without this big heavy base on it so that I could flip this inverted
and clip it to the stand for a light that I get from a thrift store or something like that, I could print that part out and nobody would even question me about whether or not I wanted to kick some money into the kitty for replacing the filament, because it's not going to use much more than maybe 30 to 50 cents worth of material to do that. But we did have one guy that entirely printed out whole pieces of a wearable Iron Man costume. So he was buying his own filament. And so to a certain level, if you're going to do like 30 or 40 different test prints of things that are going to cost about $3 or $4 worth of material, then yeah, they want you buying a spool for yourself. But there is sort of like, it's considered just sort of part of the pricing of the membership at the space is cost for replacing simple consumables. So if we're going to consume, 3 or 4 sheets of sandpaper to do woodworking, then yeah, it's part of the kit. It's part of the purchase price. That's where your membership goes. It goes for the rental of the building you're in, the electricity, the heat, the water, all utilities that need to go in there. And everything else is volunteer. Everybody who works there is volunteer work. And so the total costs of the rental of the place and the utilities and those types of things and the taxes or whatever you have to pay for some of that stuff, that's less. I mean, if you were just to calculate that in most places, New Hampshire is a little different because we have hugely expensive rental and property tax prices. But in most places, those costs wouldn't be anywhere near what a monthly membership fee at a makerspace is. So a lot of your monthly membership fee goes into consumables, fixing things when they're broken, that sort of thing. No, not really. You don't have to okay a project with everybody. I mean, at my space and most of the spaces that I've been to so far, there's a safety checkout to make sure you're safe to use the equipment. And that's not just for you. Like, they want to make sure that you won't lose fingers or an eye, yes. But they also want to make sure that you're not going to shred the gears on a $50,000 CNC mill. Like, they don't want you messing the machines up any more than they want you messing you up. So there's a safety checkout and a basic, program that you usually have to go through to know how to use the equipment. Once you've gone through that procedure, for the most part, there's not going to be a huge stockpile of material there for you to use. Like, if you're going to be using the wood CNC router, they may have 2 half sheets of plywood in this space, so you're not going to build a crib for your new baby on that. If you're going to build a big project that's going to cost more than half a sheet of plywood, you're going to buy your own sheet of plywood. And so for things like the laser cutter, the small scale laser cutter, that's something like somebody every now and then will go out and buy, 4 8x4 sheets of thin birchwood ply, and they'll cut it up into parts that'll fit inside the laser cutter. And so we'll have like 30 to 50 small pieces that'll fit into the laser cutter, and those are free to use. With the sort of kind of understanding that if we make 30 or 40 of them and we set them down on the floor on a Thursday, we fully expect that 1 week later on a Thursday, we should still at least have 25 of them. If you're going to burn through half of the stock or more, we're going to find out about it just from general word of mouth and say, like, hey, that's sort of for everybody to use. I mean, we're not going to give any crap about it right now, but for future reference, could you not use the whole shop's worth of materials for yourself? And generally, it hasn't been an issue. But yeah, if you're doing, like, when I did the laser cut puzzle that I did, the coaster and tray set, The first one I did was with a piece I got from the Makerspace free to use pile. If I want to make 10 to 20 more of them, I'm getting my own sheets of plywood. That's just the way you behave in an environment where you share the tools and equipment. That's just the way it's. Nobody wants to have to check in on each other. If we want to see what you're up to, we'll be curious about it and talk about it. But I mean, it's a situation that in some cases can become abused by some people. But I mean, I've been to 50 makerspaces at this point, and for the most part, most of them have a membership of 30 to 150 people in their shops. And of all of the 50 spaces that I've been to, I'd say maybe about 5 or 6 of them have mentioned that at some point they've had some people take advantage of the space and they address it. And either the people fix their behaviors or they're not members anymore. It's not like you can't be a member anymore. We just make it clear that the way you're conducting yourself is not how we want somebody to conduct themselves in this space. If you don't like that, you're welcome to go find somewhere else to be. We're not going to be, taken advantage of. And it's not usually a problem. But I do think trying to get back on course here because we're at an hour and I think I'm about ready to cut it here for tonight. But I'm trying to remember that as I'm thinking about how to put together what I'm working on this week for like the backpack, I don't know that I'm going to build an entire backpack capable of carrying around. Well, it depends. If I can make a really flat pack, gimbal, gyroscope stabled camera gimbal setup that would fit in that backpack that I have in mind, I might make the space for it. I don't know that I'll be able to get a whole like lighting rig or like a studio space in there. I think that's more of a like a carry-on or a back of the car setup. But I prefer. I would prefer that the first backpack for this and the other channel stick primarily to the bare bones of what I need to do wherever I am. It doesn't have to look pretty when I'm doing it. But so yeah, I think that's sort of what I need to focus on is laptop, maybe like an e-reader like a Kindle, smartphone, chargers, batteries, laptop, webcam, cords for everything, backup batteries for some of it, chargers for carports or adapters for when I go to other countries, and a power strip for plugging them all in at once, notebooks, maybe some games, a book. I mean, I really have to go sit down and figure out what else I take with me when I do these trips. I have to sit down and try to remember what it is I need. Food and drink on the sides. Maybe even just like a small pouch on it somewhere to put like camping foods, like oatmeals and dry goods that you can carry when you're traveling, freeze-dried foods and whatnot. Pemmican, whatever, dried fruit, the whole 9 yards, whatever you can make work. And then with that in mind, I might even, that seems like a lot of extra work, like a small camp stove or something, but like that's not where I am quite yet. Maybe if I want to put something like that over into the roving jack bag or whatever, I'll call that. But for this one, it's really just going to be the bare minimum. Like I could walk into the local library with this bag, and it has everything I need to work on, edit, record some simple audio for a video to post to YouTube, and I carry it on my back. I could sit comfortably in a diner and eat a meal with it on my back. And I can fit it, like, just a weird thought. But if I build them small, robust, and well put together enough, I might be able to take my Roving Jack bag and my Inspired Content bag and put them together into a larger backpack. That's still a very portable, wearable, usable backpack. Something to think about. All right. So that's sort of like the plan for right now. I will update tomorrow. Hopefully I'll have some drawings for stuff. Because I want to step on top of this quickly so that I'm not, Thursday night talking about how on Friday and Saturday I'm going to go down to the makerspace and make my first stitches. I don't want to be there. I want to try to get stuff done this early in the next couple days here. But time is moving so fast right now. I am not ready. We're almost in May. And at the end of June, I have to plan to be across the country. So I have to figure that one out real quick soon, too. Alrighty, so thanks for joining me. I will see you tomorrow with some updates. Take care. Have a good night. Boop, 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 boop.